Okay, the St. Mark Street Park Working Group is coming to order. It's 7:02 p.m. It is the 19th of May, and we have present Andrew Dennington, Marguerite Landry, William Sines, James Mc, James, no, I'm Owen, right? Technically, no, you're a James. When, for purposes of this committee, are you as Owen or are you as James?
I have it written as James on the minutes.
Okay,
So
you are James then. All right, and Grant Farrington. All right, first order of business is the minutes for March 31st, and then we'll move to the minutes of April 28th. Thank you very much, James, for getting these done. Do I have any additions, corrections for the minutes of March 31st?
I have some.
Okay. Uh,
Um,
Grant, you want to go and then Andrew?
sure. Yeah, so most of them were minor. I did have a couple substantive ones. I don't know if you guys have line numbers, but I think that makes it easier. So line 18, do you have line numbers?
No, I have headings, administrative response from St. Mark's School, input, Southborough
Okay.
Historical Commission, then A, B, and C, subsections, D.
Okay, I'll do it that way then. So under input from Southwest Historical Commission on the first page, under point A, Massachusetts is spelled wrong. It needs an E.
Oh, thank you.
Let's see. In that same section under C, well, C in both senses, C and then C below that. The year there for the ground penetrating radar, somebody could correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I thought that was 2006 rather than 2000, but I'm not sure. I've gone back
I think
and
you're right. Yeah.
an article about that. So yeah. So if we could change that. Under D of that section, D and then 1 underneath the B, I just spelled out open meeting law just in case OML was, people didn't know what that was. Let's see, under the next section, feedback, review, and discussion of options, under B, advises, or B and then E, advises was spelled wrong. It needed an S instead of a C there. Under D and on that section as well, D and then A. Farrington says that an investigation was recommended. I did by state archaeologist and Massachusetts Historical Commission, just to clarify that. Then under E in that same section, I had advises again spelled wrong, so it needed a D there. And I think that was it.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
Sure. Under feedback, review, and discussion of options, B says Landry questions rejection of licensing agreement. Marguerite, I think what this was getting at was, are you okay with instead Landry questions what will happen if easements are rejected at town meeting?
All right.
Okay. And then under B, I think for clarity, it should say Landry further questions who has liability and maintenance of park. C, Dennington adds that recitals in licensing agreement are not legally binding. And then under EA, Blanchard further recommends a non-targeted broad memorial. I think if people are comfortable with this, Blanchard further recommends a broad memorial not restricted to any particular group. Is that? I mean, it's the same idea. I thought that,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
okay,
What about saying Blanchard recommends a more inclusive memorial?
okay.
Does that work, James?
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
your
the
vote.
gist of it, it wasn't limited to Native Americans, right? That was the gist of it.
About a broad, comma, inclusive memorial, comma, not restricted to any particular group.
Okay.
All right, sounds good.
It's a little bit, obviously, if Dan were here, he could explain again exactly what he meant, but we're giving it our best shot.
Okay, any others? I had one same section, feedback review section under H. Signs advises that not much has been looked into. The space connects to the rest of the town, that the safety complex was not considered for town connection. I might add the word that planning for the safety complex had not considered a town connection.
I agree.
Just put planning in, because we sort of brought it up. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you, if someone is present for the meeting and speaks in the meeting, which would be in this case Kevin Miller and Michael Weishahn, do we want to include them in the minutes as also present?
I remember we said we would do that. I must have forgotten to add that in.
Okay, so what we had for those, no big deal. I know you've got a lot on your plate. Also present was Kevin Miller and Michael Weishahn. They spoke. Okay.
For that, Marguerite, does present include present as a participant in the meeting, like on the Zoom
Mhm.
call, or does present imply
Yes, both of them
spoke?
spoke.
Okay.
Present and commenting.
Well, I don't,
Alright.
yeah, I just want to clarify that. Okay.
Okay, that's good. And James, do you want to do those corrections, or do you want me to do them? I know you.
Well, I just typed them all up.
All right, that's terrific. All right, shall we vote on these now? All those who wish to accept these minutes as amended. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
that's Andrew, and the second was, who was it?
Grant?
Oh, Grant. Okay, all right. Mr. Dennington,
Aye.
Landry, I, Mr. Sines,
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas Worley,
Aye.
and Mr. Farrington.
Aye.
Okay, we've approved those minutes. Let's look at April 28th. Do I have emendations and corrections for April 28th minutes?
I had some as well on this one.
Okay,
If you want me to start.
yes.
Okay. So, excuse me, under section, well, it's the third section, report on burial records. Under B, I went back and checked the tape on this one, and I believe it was actually 103 people that Dan mentioned rather than 130. So just wanted to clarify that. I think there's sorry, I'm looking at a track changes version. So I think there's around that same area, there was some parentheses and a question mark, and I had deleted those. I'm not sure which line that was on, sorry.
Yes, that would be section C. Report on burial records, A, C. It was on Nathan Stone, the town pastor, owned an enslaved person, and then I don't recall if there was no marked burial for that person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, I see. I thought that Dan had said that there was no found burial, so that's why I took the question mark out. But I guess you don't have to accept that one if you don't want.
No, I'll put that in. I just had to get
I'm
that
fine with
confirmation.
I'm fine with the question mark.
Okay, sure.
Not questioning the data, but questioning the fact. So
Okay, sure.
I'll just add in potentially.
that's all. So
Yeah, definitely. Under C2, under that same section, I just lowercase Popper. I didn't think it needed to be capitalized. let's see. Under the same section, under the large C, down on the second page, town meeting was one word, so I added a space there to separate it. Under F, there was some kind of weird thing. So I think the word was supposed to be would, but it ended up being WPI semicolon D. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought
Wait,
that was
help
supposed to
me
be
out. We're under a report on burial records, section AF.
Oh, no, sorry, section F under
Oh,
the
section.
large F on the second page. Yeah,
Okay, yep,
sorry, I
got
wasn't
it,
sure how to
okay.
refer to it.
Signs comments that Massachusetts history is very rich.
That's the one, yeah.
Okay.
Anything that can utilize this history would be quite interesting, I think.
Mhm.
Right after that, under G, unsure had an S after it, so just delete the S. Blanchard unsure says there are no definite answers. Then moving down a bit on J, the last one before the new section, Landry comments that poppers were considered moral. I thought that should be failures rather than failings, because a failure refers to the person. You can correct me if I'm wrong
No,
on that.
that's fine.
Okay. And then moving down a bit further under, I think it's the third page on report on ADA options for park design, section A. I just spelled out what SPAC was to be Southborough Public Accessibility Committee, parentheses SPAC, just in case people didn't know. And then also in that same section after 5012 C compliant, I had to look that one up. I didn't know what that was. So I just put parentheses Massachusetts law, just to clarify. Which is that, just want to
I think
clarify.
Bill is reaching for a book that is maybe going to have the right areas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe you can clarify that, Phil.
He's got to have to remember to unmute before he tells us. He's didn't unmute.
Bill, you're muted.
It is actually 521 CMR Architectural Access Board is what it's called. That's the title for it.
521 CMR. Okay.
Yeah, Architectural Access Board.
Okay.
That is the Massachusetts law. There is, of course, federal law, which is incorporated. Largely, it's titled ADA something, and there are several chapters to that also. But we're talking about 521 CMR, I believe.
Great.
That makes sense. That would be what you would hear if you had your head down and you were writing. You would.
You have to also remember that I take these notes by hand before I type them up. So
Yes,
They're very good notes. So
They
Yeah,
are
very good.
they're fabulous.
They really are. They're very detailed.
All right.
And then I just have two more quick things, if you don't mind. Also under report on ADA options, section B, subsection A, I think SPAC committee is redundant, so I just deleted committee because C is in the committee. And then finally, under list of documents referred to, I went back and watched, or didn't watch it, but I looked at the video, and we referred to engineering plans a lot in that.
Which
in that
was it?
meeting.
We referred to the which?
Engineering plan. So I had just added something along the lines of, for list of documents, engineering plans of park from DPW Highway Reports website, quote, downtown and various streets plans was the one that I believe that the plans are under. So
Was that the one with the pink and the purple? That was a single page, correct?
no, it's like a 200-page document with a bunch of engineering sheets in it that we were kind of
Yeah,
scrolling
that's what it
through.
was from, but did we use the whole document?
I think
I
we
don't
did
know.
when we were talking.
Andrew,
about
what do you
history.
think for open meeting law? Just put the whole document in, be a lot easier.
I'm sorry, which document are you referring to again?
The engineering plans that we had talked about with the history walk, we were kind of scrolling through.
In like
thought it was-
pages 87.
Yeah, the original ones. Yep.
Okay, do you need me to email you something so you have it, or?
No,
See,
we
I
just
have
want we just want to know whether if we have to, because of open meeting law, we have to include every document that was mentioned in the
I
meeting.
think it's more that the town has a requirement about that should be.
Okay, so why don't we just do the whole engineering plans instead of the particular pages?
Okay, I think we were scrolling through it anyway, so that would make sense.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do that. Let's do
And
that.
I have a copy of that, so I can send that
All
over
right.
if you want the PDF. And that was it for me.
Okay, that's good. Andrew, Bill, others? I had one. I think, did Sally Waters speak at that meeting?
I don't believe so.
No? Okay.
No, I thought she did because I had her.
She did. There's something about
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Well,
700 pages.
she only did it at one of the meetings, so maybe it was
Yeah, and
this.
this was it. I think this was the one because she's quoted in here, and I would just have I think I saw her quoted in here.
Yeah, I believe so, right? Too.
Yeah.
Oh, the second page under section I,
Yes, thank you.
comment from
Okay.
Sally Waters. Yeah.
So I would just say, yeah, Waters added, blah, blah. So then I would just say, what did we have it as president also speaking? Sally Waters, VP, Southborough Historical Society. And then there was one other place where I would just suggest, this was Report on Burial Records, section B. No, section C. Blanchard suggests that despite non-specificity in the town history book, town meeting notes suggest the cemetery was enlarged in 1757. Was that town history book Fences of Stone?
That's what I interpret in the.
Yeah, I assume.
So shall we just call it Fences of Stone?
I'll add that in parentheses.
That's what I
It's
was
just
gonna
not what he literally said.
That sounds good. And then in report on cost, timetable, company options for archaeology study, in A, subsection A, one did not respond, one was busy but gave quick advice. And it says, I could complete an archaeological study. You might have it say,
I think it says one. It's the number one.
and one. Okay, it looks like an I. All right.
I
and
could
one-
change that to the word one to avoid confusion.
Ah, good.
It's good practice.
There you go. And that is the only place that I would make a suggestion. So, all right, do I have a motion to accept?
I have. I'm sorry. I have some comments.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
That's
Andrew,
okay.
go for it.
Under report on burial records B, Dennington questions location of pauper burials by Congregational Church, although no gravesite was unearthed by the commuter rail station. So here's what, Grant, did you watch the video of this and that? So I don't know if you're gonna recall it. I remember,
Maybe, I can't remember.
okay, I think that's correct. Like questions location of pauper burials by Congregational Church. I think I was suggesting like, why would they be there? Because I think what Dan was talking about was evidence like there had been some type of a, I don't know, I'm confused. Like what
Did
exactly?
you mean the
I-
church was burying them or they were buried near the church?
All I
I
took it was
remember.
that
I thought that the thing about the commuter rail station was something different. I thought that Dan had done some research and mentioned something that was found about paupers at the commuter rail station.
Yes.
Yeah,
was
that there was a-
Morehouse.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
I just didn't know. I thought that what's in the line, but has two different thoughts that are not really connected.
yeah,
and
that's true.
Can we separate it out?
what's
and
what's
say-
the best way to correct it? I thought that Dan was the guy that mentioned that
I'll move that second clause, no gravesite was unearthed by the commuter rail station, down to Dan's point there that
Yeah, make that F. I would also be fine with just okay.
Striking Congregational Church.
All right, yeah, sure. Well, actually, I don't think I said anything about grave sites by the commuter rail station, so
I think, if I recall correctly, somebody asked a question, but I'm not sure who it was. I think it was that Dan was talking about the construction of the commuter rail station.
Mhm.
And then maybe somebody asked a question about whether or not graves were unearthed during that, and that
All
he
right.
said that there was no, but that the graves weren't found, so they could be anywhere or something.
How about this? Along those lines, in AC Roman numeral 2, that's where it's talking about this, right?
Yeah.
Proper establishment was located. And then this comment, although no gravesite was unearthed by the rail station when it was built, that could be point number 2 under Roman numeral 2.
a lot of Roman numerals. I'll try to be less lengthy with these bullet points.
Okay, so under AC Roman numeral 2, a new section of point 2 under that, under 1.
Yes.
Okay, I see.
And then on report on cost timetable, company options for archaeological study, where it says the Dennington not enthusiastic over dig. I would like it to say after that, like dash, area already heavily disturbed.
Okay. Sounds good. I do have to, where's the thing about the library? Oh, God. Report on History Walk Design, which is on the 3rd page, where capital A, Landry comments that the library is not in favor of a history walk. And I would like to say that more specifically, the library is not in favor of any history walk design they have seen to date. How's that?
Okay. Is not in favor of the
History walk as designed.
Yes. That's good. 'Cause I think we'd fine with a history walk if it wasn't, that's from Ryan Donovan, the director, who said, I have not seen a design for a history walk that I can support. So that diplomatically says that the door is not shut to a history walk, but it needs some help. Okay, so motion to approve minutes of the 28th.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Dennington,
Aye.
Landry, aye, Mr. Sines,
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas Worley,
aye.
and Mr. Farrington.
Aye.
All right, so we've got these minutes. Any more documents to go in? Too late now? They're done. All right, let us approach our agenda, which even between the time that I sent it in and the time now of the meeting has had changes to it. The first and important thing is the report on the Historical Commission and St. Mark's Communications, which is, since we last met, the letter from St. Mark's to Kevin Miller at the Historical Commission saying that St. Mark's is willing to move forward on a dig. This is certainly an interesting and, in my opinion, fabulous development. Andrew, do you want to comment? Maybe we all.
Well, sure. I mean, just the letter kind of speaks for itself. And has everyone read it that I forwarded to?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, I've got it in front of me, and maybe I'll just the most significant part is where the St. Mark's School said, we will hire a cultural resource management firm specializing in the historic archaeology of New England to conduct a survey of the construction site to determine whether or not this land contains evidence of an indigenous people's burial site. The firm will obtain the necessary approvals from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we will keep the Historical Commission updated on the results of this survey as well as any resulting next steps. So I agree it's a positive development in that the issue that has you know, been difficult to deal with for our working group and has really been in some ways kind of divisive is going to be resolved. So that is a positive sign. And it'll be interesting to see, you know, what happens with it. I spoke a couple days ago with Kevin Miller about this. He's in the audience right now. I asked him about kind of the timeline and everything, but so rather than he's here, and maybe Kevin, do you want to speak to what information you have or don't have? If so, you can raise your hand. Okay, there he goes. Let's see, press. Okay, good.
Hey there, working group. How are you?
We're good, and this is excellent news here.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me in. I don't have a whole lot to add, except to say that I've spoken with Rob Kuklovich at St. Mark's. He's the CFO. Subsequent to his letter, and he's indicated, as I told Andrew the other day, that they intend to try to move with all speed with this project. I think, I don't know, I mentioned in our meeting last week, Rob had told me it's not in the letter, but the firm that they intend to or have or are hiring is a group called Archaeological Consulting Services out of Guilford, Connecticut. And if you guys are interested in checking out their website, it's acsarchaeology.com. And it's quite impressive, and I'll show you that, you know, it's a very good firm with a lot of experience for a variety of different organizations. So I felt like after I had checked them out and checked out their website, that I had very high confidence that, you know, St. Mark's had made a very fine choice in terms of firm, and that they were going to get very good and comprehensive work out of it. The communication I had late last week with Rob was concerning some details of, for instance, the document plan that you discussed, and whether that had been shown to the Mass Historical Commission. And it was just a matter of being able to expedite the permits so that all the facts that their consultants sort of presented to the state and filing for permits lined up with what had previously been viewed by Brona Simon at Mass Historical. And so I provided that information to the best of my ability, and he was satisfied with it. And so I think it's just a matter of the firm getting the permits and moving forward. And of course, it being good weather now and all, you know, they'd like to move along as quickly as they can. So that's all I know. But I have very high confidence that St. Mark's will stay in touch. And as soon as there's an update, and I have it, I will gladly pass it along to you folks.
That it's absolutely cause for celebration. It's really wonderful. And I assume this means that any and all work of any other kind on that parcel of land is not going to happen until this is done.
Well, you know, Marguerite, since it's all now will be subject to state permit, I would assume that, you know, they're going to be overriding state officials that will, and the, you know, statutes and procedures for dealing with this kind of work that will dictate that. So we did have some discussion about, you know, for instance, whether they could pave the, you know, you could move forward with the road part of it while you, but my impression is the answer to that may be no, you know, because, you know, how happens if the archaeologist determines that the site extends further than, you know, after all, this is now the boundary between the park, the road, and the parking lot. Those, of course, arbitrary boundaries that the design has imposed, right? And unfortunately, what's underneath the soil may not comport with those boundaries. And so but it is what it is. And so I take a very a patient stance on this, and we'll see what we see and hope the archaeologists can move forward very quickly, get the permits in short order and find out. And if they find out good news, for instance, if the archaeologist finds that, yeah, there's maybe evidence of sub stuff, but it seems to be within 20 or 30 feet of the stone walls, great, as far as we're concerned, because then, the project, the rest of the issues that hang fire with regard to the project can get resolved and everybody can move forward with their business. So I think it's all dependent now on what the archaeologist finds and how quickly they get the permits and what the state oversight that's involved actually consists of. And I'm no expert on that. So
Well, you're the point person. I think it was such good news to hear that this would be resolved one way or the other. I'm really happy for you, Kevin. I think it was really well done. Questions from other members of our group?
Oh, sorry, Marguerite, can I just throw in one thing?
Please, yes.
I feel like the result that we got, as I said in our meeting last week, is a win for us all.
Mm.
Right? It's for St. Mark's. It's for historical to some degree. It's for other voices, and it's for the working group, because I think what I counseled my own members was a certain amount of patience and let's let the process work out. And I think St. Mark's was listening. They were listening at town meeting. They've been listening to our meetings, to your meetings, and paying attention. And they came to what I regard as, the right decision. But I want to give some credit to you folks, because, your candid conversations over the last couple of months have been, I think, part of the dialogue that moved the needle. So I think there's plenty of credit to be shared by all. So I thank you for your voices and again for the sort of candor of the conversation you've had.
Thank you for saying that. And do we have other questions? Grant?
Yeah, I just had two quick questions. First of all, I too was very pleased to see the letter that St. Mark's sent, and I'm really happy that this is resolved. I know that we've kind of been hung up on it for the last few meetings at least, and so it's good to see it finally come to a conclusion. Just a couple quick questions. I was wondering, do you know if the dig is being conducted on the entire parcel, or if they are only doing a subsection of the parcel closest to the burial ground, or is it too early to say at this point?
Grant, I think it's too early to say. I think the intention, I'm guessing that St. Mark's desire would be that it would be confined to the park portion of the designated area. However, again, I think Andrew would agree with this. Once it's subject to state oversight and state permits, I just don't think you can dictate what the conclusion will be. We'll have to be patient and see what the archaeologist finds. I think, like I said, I think it would be good news if the archaeologists found whatever they might find is actually close to the stone walls. That would certainly be the path of least resistance for the project moving forward.
Great, awesome. And then just a second question. I know in the letter it mentioned, hiring a cultural resource management firm to conduct a survey of the construction site to determine whether or not the land contains evidence of an indigenous people's burial site. I'm not totally versed, I guess, in how this actually works, but if they were to find, other, let's just say, culturally significant, items or that were non-native, do we have any sense of whether or not those would be taken into account? Or the letter mentions only indigenous people, so I was just curious about that.
That's a great question, and I don't have an answer for you, except to say that, again, I think within the state oversight, it's going to, if they find things, I don't think they're going to say, well, for instance, if we found evidence of colonial burials, they'll say, well, those don't count. Because they're not Native Americans. We'll just stop. I don't mean to be flip. I just have a feeling that if anything is found, they will continue till they've satisfied their, curiosity. But again, I'm not an expert on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. James, did you have questions? Okay.
No
Bill?
question, just a big
Okay.
thanks. Thank you, Kevin.
Oh,
Question, Margaret.
Michael Weishand says he's been raising his hand for a long time. I can't see a raised hand, Andrew. Can you see a
He
raised?
had his hand raised and then it's not raised. So if you want me to bring him over, I will do
Please,
that.
yeah.
Bill wanted to speak, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Bill, do you want to speak now before we hear from Michael?
No, you, what I have to say may be somewhat unpopular, so why don't you let Michael speak first?
Okay. With that teaser, now we all want to hear what you have to say.
I'm pressing promote to panelists. Okay, there we go. You are muted.
Hey, thank you for entertaining me. I just wanted to say, so this stoppage of work really is determined entirely by the Board of Selectmen and has really nothing to do with the state or with this archaeological dig. And I think that we really need a clarification from the Board of Selectmen as to what is happening with this project and what their intentions were, because at town meeting, we heard Marty Healy say, we are going forward. I'm sorry, there was a bit of noise there. At town meeting, we heard Marty Healy saying we were going forward with these licensing agreements no matter what. So perhaps Andrew could provide some clarification as to what the intent is of the Board of Selectmen and when are they going to publish that intent? Thank you.
Okay, good question. And I think that our next agenda item, which is a discussion of the town meeting vote on Article 25, will probably get into that.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Well, Michael, the
Because-
short answer is I don't know, because that's a matter that would need to be discussed at the select board level. And as you know, there's a new select board as of last week. And I certainly hope that this is discussed at an upcoming meeting. I mean, obviously, as a result of the votes at town meeting, there's a lot of things to be talked about and considered. I just can't, Michael, I think you know I can't give you a direct definitive answer to something like that where I'm just one person and it's something that needs to be discussed. So I don't know if that answer is satisfying, but that's what it is at this point.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm, that's fine. I anticipated that answer, but I do think that your committee needs to understand that the final decision does rest with the Board of Selectmen. So while I applaud your work, I applaud St. Mark's, I applaud this dig, and I applaud all the work of the Historical Commission. What I would really like to see is a formal declaration from the Board of Selectmen saying that this project is in suspension, including all its costs, until we have a better idea of what is going on here with this archaeological dig. And on a broader perspective for the taxpayers of Southborough, what is going on with the cost of this project. So the sooner that we can get some notice of your intentions, Andrew, with the Board of Selectmen, that would be great. That's all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Yep, definitely
Have a good
duly
evening.
noted, as we say. So Bill, I'm dying to hear what you have to say now.
Look, I guess it goes back to what I have a question, and that is, what is the charter of this committee?
Yeah, so the charter, as you know, and this is something we talked about at great length before, was to make a recommendation about filling that unfilled circular space. So, and we've talked about things that are really kind of related to that, but in some ways far afield. So we mentioned that to the select board at the meeting on, I want to say like April, late April.
Mhm.
Marguerite was there as well. And as the minutes that we just approved reflect, I think the, reasonable view of the select board is, okay, if you're talking about some interesting things and there's some tweaks to this design that are interesting, let us hear about them. So, I mean, another thing that I would like to get some clarity about is, okay, the working group began with this particular more narrow charge. And now I think we're starting to get some real, first, I think that I just want to see what happens as a result of this excavation. I just don't know what it'll find. And that's obviously, a sensitive topic, but this group has come up with some very interesting ideas for kind of like themes of park space. And I think that that's valuable. And everyone, again, one of the things I said at that select board meeting was that one of the reasons why I think sometimes a sign of a good group committee is when there's disagreements and respectful discussion about tough topics. And that's what one of the things that our group has had. So I think that there's some value, and it's because people care. So I would like to see some way that, again, I don't know if, Bill, you mean to express frustration that we're just kind of like talking around and around and around, it sometimes feels like, but I do think we're getting some good ideas. And, I look forward to you talking about the drawing that you've had, but so again, I also tried to answer that question as best I could, but look, another thing we could do is I could go back to the select board and say, hey, do you want us to, we're kind of maybe beyond our charge at this point. Do you want us to continue looking at other things? Right?
Yeah, Andrew, here's my confusion, I guess. We've had lots of discussions, but I thought the nature of this committee was to recommend the design of a park that would be suitable for all taxpayers in the city of Southborough.
Actually, no, Bill, if I can interrupt you just technically, the original charge to us, which was before you joined the working group, it was to select a monument for the middle of the circle.
Actually, it wasn't even to select a monument. I have it here. It's the Board of Selectmen would like to assemble a working group of citizens and interested parties to generate a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen regarding what should fill the circular space in the center of the park that will be constructed between the library and the reconstructed intersection. It said that they're interested in placing a monument or marker, but the recommendation actually said what regarding what should fill the circular space.
Right.
That was our
So but that was before you were with us, and then I think 2 meetings in you joined us, which was good. And by that time, it had become clear that we were moving beyond that simply because there were a lot of other issues. The history walk, the use of the space by the library, the who would be memorialized, whether we should do a dig. A lot of things came up. I thought it was fabulous that we went further than our charge to see what else we could generate. But I don't know. Do you find that bothersome? Do you want to return to the original charge? I'm not quite sure where.
If I can opine quickly, I think we're rapidly approaching getting to that, very core idea of a recommendation. I think we're almost there. I think we're approaching it.
I agree.
Yep.
Especially now that the dig has been resolved, I think.
So, but it appeared
Sorry, Bill, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go on.
I mean, it appears to me that whether in fact this dig does or does not produce results, only determines whether in fact the park will proceed forward or it will not proceed forward. In other words, have we found a graveyard which can't be developed in terms of a park for the rest of the community? Or have we not? In which case, what do we want this park or a monument, as the case may be, to look like? I think one of the things we said is that the initial park design, if we want to pursue that train of thought, the original park design seemed to be out of tune, out of place with respect to the location in which we found it. And we wanted to make some changes to that park so that it would be more appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
We then subsequently said, if in fact we want to have a park, who should be engaged? That is, what elements of the community should find elements of this park engaging?
Mm-hmm.
And we identified a historical component, a botanical component, a programs component to include library programs, et cetera. And we found a series of those that we wanted to accommodate somehow within the park itself, I thought. And then we had some objections concerning around those about how, in fact, the proto space that we had there could be made more effective for each one of those additional components.
Mm-hmm.
How would it be organized? We got then into another discussion concerning whether, in fact, we as a group of individuals here could make pronouncements about what these other elements would like to see within the park. In other words, the other stakeholders would like to see in the park. Can we specify what historical people would like to see, what botanical people would like to see, what the other program individuals would like to see? And I think we've tried to wrestle with that, but that seemed to me to be a little bit outside of our domain, outside of our expertise, let's say. Even though we wanted to potentially make this park as useful as possible for a lot of different organizations and a lot of different people, we I think, have run into the situation where, in fact, we cannot make specific pronouncements about the elements of the park. All that we might be able to do at this stage of the game, determining, that is, based upon the exogenous variables about whether, in fact, the park will proceed or it won't proceed, all we can do is say, within this concept of proceeding on the park, what should be the prototypical elements of this park that will allow other organizations to participate, design, and develop a component that would be suitable for their expertise.
If I'm not mistaken, though, I think we have, a couple agenda items on park design for later in the evening. So I think we're going to get there and kind of delve into all of this in more detail.
Grant, I completely agree with you. I'm just wrestling with, in fact, I mean, we seem to be focusing, among other things, upon archaeological digs, et cetera, which I have no problem with and would applaud. But I don't want, my concern is that shouldn't, whatever the results of that should be in the interim, that's not what we should be focusing on at this stage of the game. We should be proceeding about what this park should look like if, in fact, we decide as a community to continue to proceed with it.
So here are my thoughts on that, Bill. Partly, I take mild offense because I feel like you're saying we're amateurs, so we don't know what we're talking about.
Oh, I didn't say that.
That's
Come
like
on.
sort of, yes. I don't know. I feel like, I think we're a good creative group and we've got some good experience between us. And I think that we will probably, when we get to where we think it should be, put this before the residents of the town in a survey or something like that and say, what do you think of these options? So I don't think we should say, no, we're not able to do this, so we shouldn't do this. I think we should go full steam ahead and say, let's do to the best of our ability, what can we come up with that would be reasonable options for here? And then put it before the town and see what they think of it.
All right.
I think, for instance, this design that you gave us is fantastic. It really is good. I would not hide that under a bushel at all. I think you really know what you're talking about with this.
Well, Marguerite, let me make one point. What type of planting should occur in the center of this park? By name, we can't decide.
Depends on what you want to do with it. But again,
No, I agree. But
Yeah.
you're talking about whether we have the expertise. And my point is
Right.
that there are elements of this thing that we just don't have a complete understanding for. And there are elements of the community out there, which I am sure can be invoked, stakeholders, which could come forward with extraordinarily creative things that might not occur to us.
Absolutely.
All right. And now, and so I don't see us putting together a complete park design, which we can take the Board of Selectmen and say, in all its glory, here it is. I think we can do something else. But
I think your
Grant
idea of zones
raises
of
a great
use
point.
is very good. I don't question our mandate. I mean, maybe I have a case of fools rush in, but I really do think that we have managed to establish that the DPW design is, for most of our purposes, maybe needing some serious modification
Okay,
to serve the town well.
sure.
And I, you know, I feel yours, I look at it and I want to walk in it. It looks really nice. That's one element that I would say we should have. It's like the Olmsted parks that have rambles. It's not all geometric. It's more serpentine. It's fantastic. I really like it a lot. I'd take
Well,
criticism.
I can't take complete credit for that, and I'll explain that in due course. But
Okay.
There's a hand raised in the audience. I don't know if we want to let them speak.
I can't see hand raises.
Oh, okay.
Go
It's,
to
Patricia Burns Fiore.
attendees. It's Patty Fiore.
Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. Thank you.
So do you want me to promote her to panelist?
I don't mean to insult you, Bill. I'm just pushing back.
it's not insulting. I raise this issue in this fashion simply as a point of discussion, something that we can consider.
I think your design is fantastic.
While we're on the subject, can we promote Patty Burns Fiore?
Yeah, somebody has to promote.
Marguerite, do you want me to?
Yes,
Bring her over.
please. I can't see her.
I think you should soon.
Hi, are we good?
Yes.
I appreciate the moment, but, and I think it's great that St. Mark's has decided to do an archaeological survey on property it owns. I'm going to apologize in advance. I've been really sick. I have bronchitis, so I'm not going to sound great. But I'd like to just remind you all that we are still talking about a piece of land that is private property, not owned by the town, nor with easements in place approved by the town. And in my humble opinion, as an overtaxed taxpayer in Southborough, nothing should be built on private property that will cost taxpayers any money to build or maintain in perpetuity.
Okay, other responses, board members? I hear what you're saying, Patty, and I know that's a common concern among people in Southborough, and it may very well be that the residents of Southborough decide they don't want anything here, in which case the people have spoken. So.
I mean, I understand exactly what Patty says. However, that particular discussion is outside of our remit, in my opinion.
Yes, yes, because we don't want to, my gosh, it's almost an hour up now. Let's discuss the town meeting vote on Article 25 just briefly insofar as the board members want to. I have to say personally that I do not understand the legalities of that. All I know is that St. Mark's wants to do an archaeological dig, and the town may or may not have control over that property as of the vote. It's beyond my pay grade at this point. So if others wish to comment, go right ahead. Grant, I think you wanted to say something. Am I right?
Yeah, I can just do a quick recap. I think most of us know what happened, but just a couple sentences, and then I did have a kind of question or concern that came up out of this actually. So, yep, town meeting was a couple weeks ago now, I believe. And so for Article 25, which was the accepting or proposed to accept the accept the easements from the St. Mark's to the town and from the town to St. Mark's for this kind of land swap here. The selectmen who were the sponsors of the article started off by proposing to indefinitely postpone to a fall town meeting. And the reason that they used was to give the working group more time to continue our work. And so the town, the floor rejected that. And then so we started just a discussion on the easements and I guess the issue itself. And after a pretty long discussion, there was some presentation and a video made by Michael Weishan. The town voted, I would say overwhelmingly, to reject the easements. And so the article failed. And so where that leaves me now, I know a lot of people that I know have been wondering, where does this leave us now, essentially? So the easements have been rejected. I know that Marty Healy had mentioned at town meeting when he was a selectman that something along the lines of regardless of the vote, that under the licensing agreement, work can continue on the property. I think that's something we might want to discuss or consider. I'm not completely clear on that, and I'm not sure if other people are either. One thing that I was wondering about, and I was pulling up the reciprocal licensing agreement again, was I don't know if you guys have it in front of you or not, but on the second page of the 4-page document of the reciprocal licensing agreement, under point 13, it says that the parties, let's see here. The parties reserve the right to review, revoke, or rescind this license for any reason and at any time within 300 days notice, provided, however, that the parties agree to attempt the resolution of any issues before any action or revocation or restriction is taken. And I'm not sure if this is completely related, but one question I had on that was, the first time I had read that section, I had read it as within 300 days of the signing of the licensing agreement, that okay, I see Andrew shaking his head. And after I read it this time again, I was reconsidering my reading, and now I'm reading it the other way. So Andrew, perhaps you can, perhaps you can clarify, does that mean that at any time, let's just say 5 years from now, for example, that if any one of the two parties want to rescind the licensing agreement for any reason, as long as the other party is given a 300 days notice, then that could occur? Is that what that means?
Yes. And
Okay.
this is very common type of language that, where two parties have some type of a relationship here, a land use relationship, or, this is a common term in like an employment contract or a relationship between like a consultant and a client, that someone has the option to get out of a contract by giving them X number of notice, but that there's also a clause before you do that. First off, that's a pretty long period, 300 days, and that you're encouraged to meet to try to resolve whatever conflict there is before that takes place. So no, that
Okay.
does not mean that the reciprocal licensing agreement is still in place.
Oh, I wasn't saying it wasn't in place.
Yeah.
I was just clarifying
Yeah.
that it can be revoked at any time for any reason by either of the two parties, essentially as long as they give them a 300 days heads up. Is that a general reading?
Yes,
Okay. I had misread that previously, so I just
well,
want
that's okay.
And I'm still going to go with the same, if I can just step in here for 2 seconds, is we have a situation with two people who are abutters, basically, the town and the school. The school would like more parking, the town would like a little park. It seems like everybody's getting something nice out of this. We don't need to be in a state of paranoia about it. I think that there's a way to work it out where both people will be satisfied. I mean, that's what I am sort of aiming toward. I'm
Yes.
completely befuddled by the licensing agreement and the easements and on and on and on, and how if it's defeated, it's still passed or something like that. But all I'm trying to get to is we would like to have St. Mark's have their parking. We would like to have a nice high town use, pleasant, secure, lovely park. That's where I am on this. And I hope that the rest of the working group is in the same place, and I think we all are, because look what we've come up with in the time that we've been working together. A lot of really nice things. And so the report on town meeting vote on Article 25, it's like, I don't know, Grant, that's as close as I've ever come to having it clearly explained to me, which I know isn't very helpful. But
I guess maybe I still am unclear about the impact of rejecting the easements. I know that an argument has been made that the easements can simply come before town meeting again, and obviously it didn't have to be this specific town meeting, 2022. Is that your general understanding, Andrew? Is that the argument is made
Yes.
that it can come again and
Yep.
moved in the future?
But so one point, I think what Marguerite said before was stated it very simply and elegantly. One thing that just the way that the town meeting presentation happened, there was no affirmative case made about this project or this park at all. And I think that was unfortunate. I mean, the one thing we've talked about is a couple things. One, it's not worth going. I feel good that we're past town meeting. There's now some other I think that helps us work productively forward. The fact that St. Mark's sent this letter funding the archaeological excavation helps, what this working group is trying to do. But just remember, like in the late part of 2020, early part of 2021, a lot of different people, other boards and committees saw appeal to this project. And then it kind of went awry. And I think what this working group is doing is getting some ideas that are really great long-term ideas that could help fulfill, I think, the original idea that a lot of people got behind in late 2020, early 2021. So, I mean, if you're asking what exactly is going to happen in the future, I don't know. I kind of like divide when I'm here, I'm trying to help with getting, like a more community oriented idea of what this park could be. And then the, select board is more like higher level policy decisions about a lot of the things that you're asking about. And They're just two different meetings.
Let me ask if everybody's okay with this, if we can move on to agenda item number 5, which is the history walk designs, and then also agenda item number 6, which is park designs. If we can take those two items right now, and before we get completely exhausted, see if we
Yeah,
can.
I'm also sorry to interrupt, but I just looked. I reserved the Zoom room for until 9:15.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
We should be
all
able to do that. So let's look at what we've got on history walk design.
Was that grimace, James, that you didn't want to?
Yeah, that was a grimace.
I have to
With
predict
all
how
due
long
respect-
this would go when I reserve it, so I'm just.
Michael Weishand has his hand up again.
Oh, okay.
He just texted me. So, you know, worst case, St. Mark's could have just paved this whole area where the park is supposed to be and put their extra parking in there, if I may point out. It would have looked terrible, but it was certainly one of the options that they could have followed.
They may yet.
Yeah, and so my thing is like, let's come up with something that everybody's happy with, and just, you know, look forward toward that kind of solution. Michael, are you with us?
I tried to.
It says he's still an attendee instead of a panelist.
I pressed the button.
There he is.
There you go.
Hi, Michael.
Hello. Look, you know, I just want to correct again this narrative. Andrew, I'm sorry to have to correct you, but you know, these committees and panels that you say looked at this back in 2020, that was a Marty Healy fallacy. We were sent plans that showed this as entirely town land. We were sent plans that showed this as a completely different conception. We signed up to the state to provide a history walk, which was never completed. And asking the historical commission to essentially lie to the state was not a very good action on part of the town government. And everyone keeps wanting to say, well, let's move beyond this, let's move beyond this. But the fact of the matter is, there's no money for this project. This is on private property. If St. Mark wants to build a park, that's great. They should be allowed to do that, and amen. They want to build a parking lot, they can do the same. But you know, the road question, I don't have answers to that because that's way above me, where we tried to illegally use Chapter 90 funds to build an intersection on private land. But you know, I think we should really be working forward here to trying to figure out where we are currently. Where is the funding? What monies do we have? Are we going to get a $300,000 clawback from the state? Is there any money at all to do this project on land we don't own? And again, I echo Ms. Fiore, we don't own this land. And until we get some clarification from the Board of Selectmen as to exactly where we are on this project, exactly where we are in these investigations, we're nowhere here. And I hugely appreciate your work here. I really, really do. And I'm looking forward to the result of this. But there's some substantial roadblocks in the way as to, you know, how you get there. Where's the money coming from?
Well, Michael, can I ask you, since we don't have a lot of time and we do have two agenda items that I would like us to discuss that will maybe provoke some thought with you with that. And if we could, I mean, the question you asked, where's the money coming from? Will it be fundraising? Will it be who knows what? We'll have to see who gets behind, you know, what the options are. But if we could hear just partly on history walk designs, I know Grant's done a lot of work on that. And then on park designs, I know Bill's done a fair amount of work on that. If we could just move on to these things here, this might provide sort of inspiration or something to you so that you would feel more comfortable with this park
Marguerite,
actually happening.
Sign off here. congratulating you for the person in town who actually got the most votes in the entire town election.
Oh, please, I've become unbearable since I read that. In
I
the
know.
South Road. No one,
Oh,
I'm-
you
I'm-
become so pompous.
I'm so hopelessly full of myself. You wouldn't be able to believe it. And it's like, oh, anyway, thank you. Thank you, Michael. So listen, I want to make this park happen in a way that it doesn't cost $1 million and everyone loves it. That's my goal. So can we, I hate to put you on the spot, Grant, but can you tell us what you found out about history walks?
Sure.
Thank you.
I have a quick PowerPoint, mainly just pictures. If I can share my screen, just give me 1 second.
Apparently there are history walks and there are history walks, as we know. So Grant has been off looking at what people are doing.
Oh,
And,
it says.
and I think Andrew, you saw a couple too, right? Did you send out?
History walk. I think Grant is from the thing in Connecticut.
Yeah.
I can't share my screen. If you can.
Okay.
Comment with that, Andrew.
Let's see how I do that. I go to participants, go to Grant, allow to share screen, make co-host. Let's try that. Does that work now?
Give me 1 second.
Should be a button, share screen. Okay, good.
There you go.
Can you see it?
Yes, beautiful.
Okay, great. Let's see, slideshow. Play from start. Okay, great. So yes, I just took some pictures. I was down in Connecticut visiting family, and I was driving through Vernon, Connecticut, which is near Hartford, and kind of driving through the back of Vernon, which is pretty rural. And I saw a series of plaques and some walkways along the side of the road. And I said, "Dad, stop the car." And, looks like a history walk to me. And I went up to it, and lo and behold, it was. So I just took a few pictures and put together a quick slideshow. So this is from May 1st. Oh, wait 1 second. Okay, so this history walk was a bit different in terms of the kind of the location of where it was at compared to Southborough. This was in a pretty rural open area. It was near a pond. It was the site of an old industrial mill that was on a river there that was later dammed, I think. So a bit different in terms of kind of the scope and scale in terms of that. But as you can see, it was a concrete walkway that kind of meandered through this patch of woods here. Let's see. So I thought it was very interesting. So the place was called Valley Falls, as you can see on the sign there. It was a multi-access trail, which meant that every one of the signposts had Braille on the beneath it, as you can see on the picture on the left there, which I thought was great. And
Not only that, Grant, it's not only great, it's the law.
oh, okay. Even better. So I thought it was great how they incorporated it and pretty seamlessly into the design. Another cool thing was that, as you can see, oh wait, sorry, I'm trying to go back. The rope on the left there was kind of a guide rope to help the visually impaired. And as one of the cool things that I thought was that there was kind of like on the rope, there was kind of like a bump as you approach the next sign that was kind of indicated to the person that there was a marker upcoming, which I thought was also kind of a cool way to incorporate that. And so yeah, there's that.
The copy is fabulous. The copy on the signs. In front of you are the falls. Listen to the sound. Follow the guide rope along a path.
Yes, it was a beautiful area, and there's a waterfall, and yeah, it was very cool. I think it was
Yeah.
kind of used as like a fishing
Stop
pond.
and listen to the sounds of the brook and the bird songs.
Yes, so yeah, I thought it was very well done. As you can see, it was it starts off as a concrete / paver walkway, and then later on it turns into kind of like wood chips. So at least the first part of it was ADA accessible. although it was going up a hill. And then the second part, which it was a pretty long walk actually. So the second part was more kind of forest floor, so maybe not as accessible. So kind of meandered down the hill there. Yep, as I said, it kind of transitions to wood chips and going through the woods there, so it wasn't completely paved. And so they called it the Multi-Access Heritage Trail. So in case we're wondering of different words to, different names to call the history walk, a heritage trail. And, there's just a sign at the start and the end thanking the people who contributed. So they had, it looked like community groups, corporate sponsors all pitched in to create that. So I just thought I would share that with the group. And then also, the next week, I was in Marlborough, Massachusetts, right next door, and walking around the, downtown Main Street over there in the downtown center. And they had a different kind of history walk there, so I thought I would share that. Unlike the one in Connecticut, this one was not really a defined walk in terms of being in a defined kind of area as the previous one. This was more kind of like plaques or spread throughout the downtown, I guess would be the best way to say it. So like maybe one on every kind of street corner as you're going, like walking down Main Street, there'd be like another signpost off of the main street. But I thought it was a well done thing. They had lots of history on these signs. They were all accessible. They're pretty much all right off of sidewalks and paths, and it seemed to me to be all ADA accessible. This one, as it happened, was on the old town common in the center of Marlborough there. So and was talking about kind of the history of the space, and I thought that was very similar to kind of what we're doing here, right in the center of our town. And just a fascinating, I didn't get to see all of them. I only saw about 3 or 4. I think I said there were 17. So quite a lot of detail on these signs as well. At the bottom, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a QR code that led to, I think it was the the dog. So yeah, just the QR codes. I think it actually.
I think that means the dog liked it.
Oh, good. Yeah, so the QR code was actually leading to the text of the sign, so you could read it online as well as in multiple languages. So I thought that was cool and great for accessibility. And then also, you can't see it here, but in the bottom left, it said that there were printed brochures kind of and maps of the walk throughout the center of town that you could get from like the town hall and the library, which I thought was great as well. Oh, and that's what I said there. So,
and it's called the Museum of the Streets, and it looks like there's an asterisk. Is that a state program or something like that?
I'm not sure exactly. I can look that up. I'm not sure if that's just what they called it or what, but this one looked pretty new. I think it said it was 2019, and then the one in Connecticut was 2011. So, and that's all I have.
That's great. A lot of information. Very, very different walks, but the Marlborough one looks fascinating with the map.
Yeah, this is exactly the type of thing that I'd like to see that's tailored to Southborough, and that would just, incorporate a lot of the different themes that we've been talking about already.
Yeah, so I thought it was a good idea starter, and yeah. So
Is that map the trail that they took to Canada with the cannons?
I believe so. It's about General Henry Knox. It's General Henry Knox there on the. I believe that's correct. Yes.
That was quite the hike.
Yes. And they also, I can't remember if I didn't include the pictures. Sorry, I had a bunch of pictures, but there were some pictures on or plaques on Native American history in Marlborough with the praying Indians and other Native history and stuff. I think there's also some discussion of Native history on the the discussion of the common as well. So yeah, just a lot of information, and I thought it was well done. So yeah.
Yeah, they're wonderful. Thank you for that, Grant.
Yeah, no problem.
That's definitely something that you want to try it on Southborough and see if it fits what the community would like. It's definitely inspirational that way. Bill, could you talk to us about your park design?
All right.
Andrew, did you flip it on your screen, Andrew? So
I'm going to try to do that.
Oh, thank you. I think Andrew can turn it sideways.
Okay, I think I've got it here. This is going to be easier, Bill, than showing you on the screen like that. I think if you showed it might be backwards, but okay, let me see if I can do this here.
Everybody get a chance to look at that? I sent it late. Yeah.
I did not actually.
Is that it?
Yes.
Yes, there we go.
This is a sketch, obviously, but
Big time sketch, yeah. Look, the premise that I'm trying to deal with here is that, first of all, one premise is that even though this area is small, it can be utilized for multiple purposes because there's overlapping purposes between the various elements we'll be talking about here. That's one thing. The second thing is that, in fact, the park itself represents, what this represents is only the prototype, the outline in which the more people more familiar with the elements than we are can basically paint the picture that they would like to see. In other words, it's a palette on which people would like to paint things.
mm-hmm.
The upper right-hand corner, roughly speaking, near the cemetery, near the back of the cemetery, I've kind of more or less envisioned to be the historical component. In other words, that area of the park is under the remit of the people who have historical expertise and wish to express it. They can design what they would like to see in that particular element of the park. That element of the park is joined, as one might be able to see, by two different paths. One path that comes from near where the library is, and another path which comes down from the historical museum. Both of those paths should be ADA compliant and with a relatively easy grade so that people on a fairly firm surface can walk around that area and see what is in the area itself. In addition to that, the elements on the path that runs at least down to the center of town by the library and potentially up to the historical museum can be a walk very much like similar to what Grant has presented for the walk he noticed down in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
It could join, for example, other elements which we may want to put in the town center, or which other historical components would like to put in the town center. So it gives people an ability to join the town center. And that by town center, I mean where the townhouse is today and where the Park, Cannon, and Historical Museum is on the other side, along with the library, and additional sidewalks which may link elements of town to those elements of the town center. So in any case,
toward the community house and down toward the main street.
Yes, and if one wants to go further, you can go downtown. If there are sidewalks that one would walk down there, you could, that would link the community together down towards the public safety building and the senior center. That would link that individual, that community component together also. So what it does is it tries to make downtown Southborough a walkable area. And once you get to the library area, for example, if you're walking down from the senior center, get to the library area, you now have further incentive to walk down a historical park or a historical walkway into a park which is adjacent to the library itself. That's the idea behind it. It has an additional benefit in that there are storybook areas around the library itself which seem to need improvement. I think that's the fair statement that I can make about that. And that if in fact one wanted to take existing material there, the plaques and the posts, and repurpose them, put them along this walk, you could have one side being a storybook walk utilizable by the library, the other side being a historical walk, which would join to the element of the park we've talked about here. Now, there are other elements here also. One of the things that we had discussed was to try to give people within or users of this park an area where small groups of people could congregate and develop or present programs. I know Margarita's mentioned library story hours, that sort of thing. And so what I'd envisioned up near where the cemetery is, a series of stone granite benches that might set up there. And it could be made into a stadium fashion or not. But the point is, it's free form. It's not like a University of Michigan stadium construction, so to speak. It is something that is creatively utilizable with granite benches right along the area where the historical walk proceeds across the park up into the area where the historical displays might be presented. Point being that those steps right there, those benches right there, could be utilized by people who have or who aren't capable of climbing surfaces, for example, to higher levels where they can be seated. So they could sit right there along an ADA compliant walkway, just get out of their wheelchair, sit down off their walker, whatever it turns out to be. Now, what does that mean? It means that there's also some sort of free-form granite or compacted granite area in front of that, where in fact some type of presentation could occur, or an individual who wanted to do a presentation might stand at let's say a podium of some kind that could be constructed there. The point is, at that area right there, it is permeable surface. So in fact, any water that falls will obviously be, we hope, absorbed into the ground and doesn't lead or doesn't cause runoff into the library parking lot or other areas there. Now, in addition to that, we had also talked, I know Andrew had been concerned or would like to see some sort of gazebo. And I had thought a little bit differently about it. I had thought maybe a stage-like area, gazebo might be a good description, but a stage-like area which could be tucked over into the corner of the park. That gazebo that you may see there is called a stage. That could be pushed over further towards 85 and that new road that goes through there. But the point is that it would be, it's something that people could use for various types of presentations. That stage also serves an additional purpose. Because the stage would not be open in the back, one could make or put soundproofing material across the back of it, which would eliminate some traffic noise off of 85. Those, for example, that soundproofing material, such as you might see along the Mass Pike, et cetera, if that's not a good example, but it's one example you might think about. Those could also be extended from the stage down the new drive area that we're talking about and a little bit further down 85 towards the parking area. It would go a long way towards making that park a lot more peaceful, quiet than it is today. Now, there's a third component here that represents the botanical interest in town. And I would assert that the botanical interest, not only would they want to create a park which conform to their sensibilities and the sensibilities of the community as a whole, whatever that turns out to be. But they would have one additional remit, and that is we need plantings along the Route 85 area, taller plantings that will help protect the park from additional sound. And therefore, we could put, in addition to that wall or that thing that we were talking about there, we could put large plantings in there to make things quieter and certainly more attractive. Now, in addition to that, use natural granite, natural stones, which I noticed were dug up by the boatload over there. You can put those around and make the park creatively pleasant to sit in. I might add only one last thing, and that is the stage area probably should have some type of lawn in front of it, not only for beautification purposes, but if in fact, let's say a small presentation is being made, it would give people a place to put lawn chairs, blankets, etc., to view what was going on in that particular area. Now, there are additional things which I think the Board of Selectmen have to deal with, obviously. And oh, by the way, I probably should make additional comment about the historical walk coming from the downtown area near the library. I paced it off, walked through that area, and I know people have been concerned about intrusion onto the septic mound that is associated with the library. There seems to be room for an ADA compliant walk, which would probably move within a few dozen feet of the library at one point, and then walk along the back of the parking lot itself there. All of that would be ADA compliant and it would completely avoid the septic areas and other higher areas that are associated with the library property. What else? Let me just take a quick look here. I think what you can see, by the way, is that what this is trying to do is trying to only provide a template to engage other people in the design of the park itself. In other words, we can eliminate a lot of agita and pain on our part if we say, oh, I can't tell you exactly what type of flowers to plant, have at it. You guys are the experts. Oh, I don't know about history in town as well as you people do. You can help design this sort of thing. All it does is provides a template which knits that area together. And therefore, the various interests, the various taxpayers in town will have an area of this park which they can go to that will satisfy potentially their specific interests or general interests, while at the same time being able to acquaint themselves with other things within this particular element that they hadn't necessarily realized they'd be interested in. Okay. I would think the select board, in addition to the issue of ownership, which is a major issue that they should have to discuss, should also conclude or have some sort of general agreement with St. Mark's as to how parking can be accomplished so that this park can be used, let's say, for program purposes by the city, by recreation or other people, as well as the school itself. In other words, can people park on the St. Mark's parking area, which is to the right of this particular diagram? That's something I think would be both beneficial to the town as well as to St. Mark's. Because while we've talked about this for the use of the community, we could also quite easily understand that St. Mark's might want to use it occasionally for their purposes also. Somebody wants to teach a class outdoors, bring them over. There's a stage. You could sit down and have a small group of people avail themselves of education, whatever that turns out to be. In other words, a lot of folks in this town could utilize this park. It could also, in a gentle sort of way, to try to increase the cultural activities within the town itself. Plays, small plays could be put on. The school could bring people over for presentations in the summertime to individuals within town. It might be interesting for that sort of thing. Small concerts might be able to be put on over there, for example. There are any number of things which I think we haven't thought about here, which might this particular arrangement or this particular property could promote within the town itself. And it would be the reason why the town would want to spend money and invest in this sort of thing. The alternative, my concern is that in fact, if in fact the town walks away from an idea like this, then in fact what ultimately transpires is we have a large bus parking lot immediately adjacent to the back of the library here, and I don't think that satisfies, quite frankly, anybody's requirements. I think we can do better than that, to be very honest. Now, as I said, this is what I think we should potentially consider a park to look like and the way we should approach the design of the park. On the other hand, it does not address whether the park is to be built or not. That's another separate issue that the Board of Selectmen have to chew off. That is not, in my opinion, part of our remit at all. We're working about working on what we think the park in itself should look like. I know I've spoken a lot here. I don't mean to be pompous about this whole thing, but here's how that particular drawing and some of these ideas came up, and I have to give credit to somebody else. I have a sister-in-law, which is moving from California to Southborough. She happens to be a pretty well-known landscape designer. She's written for horticultural magazines throughout the United States. I bought her a cup of tea and I sat her down for about 40 minutes. And this is kind of some ideas. And so I take no credit for this. This is what she drew up. It is a very rough design, but it's the kind of design that deals with how one could organically put a park together that would knit various elements of the community itself together from various points of design. So,
does she want to join the working group? Has she moved here yet?
I believe if you listen carefully, you can hear her dogs downstairs. So,
I'm
yeah.
teasing you, but that row that looks like a row of pearls or something along the bottom, is that trees?
Oh, it could be plantings, it could be any number of things. I mean, keep in mind, this is truly a kind of a rough design.
Yeah.
I mean, if you move the stage back a little further, you can envision a scenario whereby that would be more fully tucked back into the corner and give you a larger lawn. And that might work if, in fact, soundproofing material proves successful for the back of the stage and along the edge. What you would certainly want to do, and what those little pearls might represent, are larger plantings of spruce or something like that, which also could be helpful in mitigating sound, as well as provide a visual background or backdrop for the area itself. That was what we don't want to do. I don't think anybody's really interested in setting in the park to watch the traffic go by. I think they're interested in using it for other purposes, and so things which would shield us from that sort of thing makes some sense, I think.
Thank you. I would like to ask the various working group members for their thoughts on this.
I just have a quick question, actually. Well, first of all, thanks, Bill, for obviously all the thought that went into this. I think it's great, and it's just a nice way to envision it, I think. Just a quick question. Next to historical area in the top right, there's like a little circle there, and it says mostly something. I just couldn't read what that says. Could you clarify that for me?
Oh, those in the middle there in the circle.
Yeah.
I think
This.
yeah.
I just couldn't read it, so I was.
Nature. I thought it said mostly nature.
Okay, because I thought it said mostly water, and I was thinking that's.
No, not water. Most,
All right.
I think it's mostly natural. And the reason that was put there like that is that if you take a look at some of the elements that are some of the activities that have been done near the parking lot on the library side, there are people who are very interested in putting
Native
natural
plants.
New England plants, for example, in this site, and that would be a perfect place for that sort of thing. And while we would say, "Oh golly, you guys got to do some higher things so that we can mitigate sound," well, all right. If you want to do some more natural New England plants, you could put that would be a decent place to put them also.
Okay,
There are
great.
plenty of other places to do it too. I mean, as you can see, the line of pearls, as you like to call them, there are all sorts of areas along there where various plantings and other types of things can occur. The walkway itself is pretty extensive. We could modify the nature of that walkway a little bit. So it would go in front of the stage as opposed to in back of the stage. Any number of things that would allow people to progress through there, seeing historical components, botanical components, viewing programs. You could do all sorts of things as you wander through there, utilizing parking in the library, and what I would hope the Board of Selectmen could agree to with St. Mark's as parking on the other side, where on the other side of that particular road. In which case, one might want to make an entrance to the park from the other side also, where that is from that new section, that new road. You might want to make an entrance from over there also.
The right-hand side, yeah.
Yeah, and there could be an idea of putting a sidewalk along that also. This is just a general design which we can add a great deal to, but the point is that within that template, it gives people the real option to present what they think should go there. And that is, once we have identified, or they have identified themselves as stakeholders that are interested in the historical component, botanical component, programs, et cetera, that once those stakeholders identify themselves, then in fact, we should do a couple of things. We should say, okay, now that you've identified yourself, tell us what you want that area to look like. Number one. Number two is give us a time in which you think that area can be turned into the vision that you think it should be turned into. And then we will have some ability to make I would assume, some approvals of the various designs. Not extensive approval, but just to make sure it integrates with the park to a whole. And that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's the second part of the part. Had you thought about lighting?
I think lighting is an important component. Now, in this particular area, I noticed I walked across or down the library parking lot, and I noticed the lighting there was the traditional supermarket style parking,
Yeah, it's
lights
pretty
that were
bad.
30
I know,
feet
it's
high.
pretty bad. It really is.
Yeah. I quite frankly think lower level lighting throughout this, which effectively illuminates the walkways without casting a ton of glare all over the place, would be extremely useful. That is also a little bit outside of my remit in any case. And I would think that there are people in town can help us with that sort of thing.
I would think also maybe blending the lighting here and the lighting at the library, which everyone admits is very functional looking, but sort of awful.
Shall we call it grotesque? Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
so-
I think it would be a great idea to have a common lighting theme throughout that entire area, which would include the library parking lot
Right.
and include the history walk that runs beside the library. It include the history walk that runs either out to the sidewalk or the library sidewalk in front of the library, depending, so to speak.
Right. Now, I know there are a couple of people who are watching who want to say something, but I'd like to hear from other board members before we turn to that. James, thoughts?
Well, thank you, Bill, for putting this all together. I'm almost at a loss for words. It's very incredible to take in. My only worry is with the engineering component for it is that if we do make some recommendation to the select board, that it's not too far afield from what they've already created, because from what I can tell is that the town and the DPW more specifically has already paid an engineering firm to develop the drainage for the park based on specific design. But from what I can tell, looking at this drawing, the paths that are drawn here mostly follow that sort of circular shape that we saw in the earlier engineering plans. So I'm sure that could be worked out.
The three sumps that the DPW put in, I think one is under the L in the word lawn. One is about halfway down to the parking lot, and the other one is a little bit to the left of the words stage. I think those are the three sumps. And I think that was the extent of that, and some hardscaping was the extent of what the engineering required.
Right. And James, I mean, as a committee, the fact that the Board of Selectmen and DPW have entered into a contract is not our problem. If that's what we want, that's what we present. They have to then deal with that particular issue, if I may be so blunt about it.
No, that's fair. And also,
Solution could be to re-engineer the park, theoretically, I think.
It might, but it certainly would not look like Christopher Columbus Park in downtown Boston, that's for sure. Which I think, quite frankly, is what the original design reminded me of. This is a more gentle design, and these walkways, by the way, do not have to be ADA compliant. Do not have to be concrete. They can be other compacted surfaces. I don't know about maintenance, and we don't have to consider that sort of issue. But the point would be that they would either be totally permeable, or there'd be a lot less concrete, which would be less permeable than the previous design.
can I just get one more quick thing, Margie?
Sure, please. Yeah.
My other worry is just the timeline on this, so that we don't end up death by 1,000 paper cuts from different committee meetings. So I'm wondering when, I know we'll get into that when we set the date for our next meeting, when we want to start asking other groups for their thoughts on this.
Okay.
That can kind of bleed into skipping ahead to Roman numeral 8. I mean, like, if there was a consensus that this is just a rough idea of something that interests the working group, and obviously it's different, then one of the things I could do is just at an upcoming select board meeting, and there's a meeting on the 31st. Try to just give a report and say, here's something that's been discussed, and then we could have a discussion about, okay, like, what would be the cost of veering off of the original designs? And I mean, the benefit of something like this is if it's something that has more public support than the prior plan, then that's something that's ultimately has like a better chance of being, good in the long term. So that's the pro of it, right? The con would be potentially cost. And, we just have a discussion about that.
Well, the other part of it is if people really want it enough, we could fundraise to pay for it if it costs more. I don't see, if we're locked into Christopher Columbus Park, I don't see people using it. But the other thing I'd like to bring up is linking this with more walking spaces in town, and I think I talked to you about this, Andrew, and also that you can't walk anywhere in Southborough. You walk like a half a mile and the sidewalk ends and you're facing nothing, or you can't ride your bike even anywhere. And I think this walk here would be a nice sort of central connector for a lot of walking spaces in Southborough that have yet to be developed.
Mm.
It looks like part of a larger plan to put more sidewalks and walking spaces into this town, to get to the downtown, to get to the senior center, the cemetery, over to Fay, over to St. Mark's. It just looks like this would work as kind of a good connecting space, because right now the townhouse and Route 85 are kind of you never walk from the library to the townhouse except up Common Street. There's no other way to go, and you don't really walk up Common Street to get to the townhouse just for the fun of it. I mean, this could be part of a walking system that goes past the other graveyard, which is quite gorgeous.
Yes.
We have a hand raised in the audience. I don't know if this would be a good.
Yes,
Good
I
time.
think.
You
Can
want me
you?
to-
I think it's.
I think I have to
it's
stop
Michael.
share to do that.
Okay.
Michael, you're with us.
Hi there. Hey, very quickly, and I've got to leave very quickly. I've been looking at this plan. It is commendable. It is well intentioned, but it is not to scale. It is completely impractical. It doesn't take into consideration the topography. Now, I am speaking as a professional in this field, and it would cost upwards of $1 million. And that's a conservative estimate. I mean, you'd have to run power, you'd have to do 1,000 things here. Again, we don't own this land. So just for a minute, and again, I've got to run, so I'm going to say this very quickly. At what point do you folks consider hallowed ground not hallowed? I know Andrew Dennington expressed this early on. He said, well, after 200 years, if there's no graves, is it hallowed? Ask that to the veterans. Ask that to the veterans exactly at what point they feel hallowed ground is not hallowed. We have a very good idea that there are graves in this area. We have a very good idea that there are Indian burials in this area. We can't prove that. The survey may or may not prove that. But what is our responsibility as a people to this history, not to respect that? Would you want a stage built over your family's gravestones?
So, Michael, let's say that we hold off on a final design until we find out where remains are.
That
And
would be
I
fantastic.
take your point totally, but I think right here what we're doing is thinking, well, this would be one option. I mean, if we find out that the whole thing is full of graves, then obviously the picture changes.
Yes, but I think it's a very, very dangerous road to submit this to the Board of Selectmen on the 31st as this is a potential option. It's not an option. There
Well, it's-
are no options. Well, excuse me, Marguerite, let me finish, please. There are really no options here until the grave survey is done. And then you have a
Mhm.
whole realm of options. If there are no graves there, then everything I've said is just wrong, except for the fact of the cost and the impracticability of it. But again, I just think this is so putting the cart in front of the horse. And given the fact that we have gone down this road, promising a result, let's pause this process until we understand fully where we are going with these Native American and potentially colonial burials. That's all I'm asking you guys. And then, plan whatever. You want slides there? I don't care. But just let's clear the ground, literally, to make sure that we are not building over these graves. And then let's seriously review how much public money, if any, we want to spend on this project.
Mhm.
So if I would suggest you a remit, it would be those two things. And with that, I bid you all goodwill and thank you all for your good work.
And
Good night,
thank you,
Mike.
Michael. Thank you for your input, and I'm glad to know it's going to be $1 million, which is good information. But here's
He has
here's
no
my-
idea
Really
whether it's going to be $1 million
I
or
know,
not.
but
He
well,
has
whatever,
no
and we may
idea.
fundraise. Who knows?
Number that,
My-
let me
the
point
other-
out also
Yes.
that if in fact that is a cemetery, it's going to get paved over and they're going to park buses on that damn thing. If that's what Michael wants, fine.
Well, I think that your design here, or as you honestly admit, your family member's design, which to me looks like this is an option besides the pinwheel skateboard park, which I saw, which threw terror into my soul at the thought of a dead piece of park back behind the library, which was not useful for story hours. And I look at the one that we've looked at tonight, and I think, well, you could move lines around. We don't know what we're going to have, but this is certainly letting me see that there are other things that could be there that would be very, to me anyway, satisfying. And I don't know how other people feel about it, but it looks like something that I hadn't visualized before, and now I can visualize it.
I could just
So-
respond to some of Michael's points. I think, you know, our working group has been kind of, I guess you could say, odd or unique, if you want to say that, in that
Creative.
creative, in that from the start, we've kind of been working along these two separate tracks at the same time.
Yeah.
One of the tracks has been park design, what's going to happen, you know, in the center of the park. And then now we've kind of progressed to be what's going to happen with the park overall in terms of its overall look and design. And then the other track has been, you know, the archaeological dig, whether or not there's near, you know, native burial grounds there, you know, whether or not this park can even continue, what the feasibility is, all those sorts of, I guess what you could call more existential questions. I think where we're at now, and in this sense, St. Mark's has done a great favor, is that they've essentially brought one of those tracks to at least a temporary conclusion in terms of, you know, now they're going to be doing a dig. We're going to find out, you know, we were in this camp where we just didn't know what we didn't know. Now we'll know. But in the meantime, we can, you know, I don't think it would be, you know, an appropriate use or lack of use of our time to just sit idly by as, you know, they dig it up for 3 months or something. I think we can continue working with this, come up with some good ideas for the park, and then, you know, if native graves are found, then obviously our recommendation would probably be not to do anything there because, you know, there's native graves. But I don't think that means that we can't continue at least coming up with ideas and continue our work in the meantime. So that's
Yeah,
kind
and
of
History Walk is still a thing, isn't it?
I agree.
Agreed.
Yep, definitely. Well, I don't know about you, but I've sort of thought about this as hard and as long as I can for one evening.
Yeah,
So, unless anyone has a desperate necessity of discussing, do you want to talk about the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen? Andrew?
no, because I think Grant just stated it pretty well.
Mhm. Okay.
Meaning that we're not ready, but we're coming closer.
Mhm.
And why would we waste all the time that we spent in all these meetings that have been very productive, and that it's been in the difficult work of trying to come up with compromises? I mean, the short answer is, do you know how much it would cost to build what Bill just kind of conceptually throw it there? No, you don't, right? So
And Andrew, I might point out that's not our problem.
when you say it's not, you're right, it's not the working group's problem. It's so
That's
far-
right.
That's right. Okay. But
I did notice, if I can interrupt briefly, that the History Walk in Connecticut had a number of corporate donors and Eagle Scouts and other people who undertook to
Mhm.
make it happen. So
Yeah, that's right. I think, let me pull it up. It was Friends, it was called Valley Falls. So there was a Friends of kind of association, a number of volunteers, Pratt and Whitney, which is the main, employer down there, or a major one at least. Eagle Scouts, more of Eagle Scout Troop 223 and different troops and stuff. So looks like a lot of different volunteer groups and some corporate sponsors came together.
So I think if you find something you want to do, you find a way to pay for it. So anyway, so where are we, Andrew? Possible recommendations to select board? No. Set the date of the next meeting.
Okay, so next week we're getting into, it's the week before Memorial Day. The Thursday would be,
Yep.
it would be the Thursday before Memorial Day weekend. So I don't know what people are doing, but do you want to just, I don't know whether like an update on where the working group is can fit onto the agenda, but for the 31st, but I could try to,
The 31st of May?
yeah, that's the next regularly scheduled select board meeting.
Are you talking about us meeting on the 31st or us meeting?
No, I was thinking, do you want to wait until
Selectmen.
like June 2nd to,
I think the only thing I would report back to the selectmen is basically we're full of ideas and we're waiting to hear what the dig finds.
yeah, okay.
And
No, but Marguerite, I think what we should tell the selectmen is that not only are we full of ideas, what we are proceeding to a design along the lines that we have described here, that is a template for other elements of the community to get involved in. And
Yes.
by doing that, we will try to gather support within the community.
yes,
Personally, I'd like to see us have another meeting before we report to the selectmen. I think even though we talked at kind of broad level about the design and our thoughts on it,
Sure.
I would kind of see us come
I'm
to.
not going anywhere on the 26th, so I can make time.
well, do we need to report to the selectmen immediately? Do they want us to? Or do they have a lot of other things on their?
Oh, I think they will discuss it.
I was just meaning that I would be in favor of meeting next week just to kind of
All
continue.
right, I'm
yeah,
okay
it can
with
be a
that.
short meeting, right? It can be a
Sure.
short meeting. Also, Dan has not participated in this.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so let's aim, if we can get a room for the 26th at 7, do you think, Andrew? Can you tell that right away?
Okay, I'm gonna try. Last time I've had problems with this, but
We're all sending you positive room thoughts here.
I bet people might not be wanting to meet at that time. Let's see.
Yes, because it's a holiday,
It's not, it's approaching a holiday.
right?
I can also do earlier in the week if you guys prefer that, a different day. Like Wednesday or something.
This is so slow.
Hmm.
I have too many windows open. You can just be patient a little bit. I'll try to.
James, how about you? How's your schedule?
Well, my schedule's free. Our class is actually in next week. So
Yay.
Oh, wow. And
Congrats.
okay. Are you in the middle of finals right now?
yeah, it's been rough being out with COVID during finals week because I missed the first part of some final
I'm
tests.
sorry to hear that. I didn't know that you.
Wow.
Did they cut you any slack?
A
for
little bit,
medical?
a little bit.
Are you isolating?
Yes, I've been in this room for the past 3 days.
Oh, no.
Sorry to hear that.
Okay, I think I've got remote meeting room 1 for May 26th, Thursday, May 26th, 7 to. I just put in the 9:30, and I'm not suggesting we're going to meet till 9:30, but just to allow enough time.
All right, that's great.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Done.
Okay, I think we've got it. All right, I'll get confirmation.
Excellent. And
tomorrow.
we'll just talk about what we want to present to the selectmen. I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, that is
Second.
James, and the second is Bill. And thank you. to
Before
all of-
we adjourn, may I say one thing?
Yes.
I apologize for being a little upset tonight. I'll try to keep myself under better control.
Were you upset tonight?
Oh, I was upset tonight.
Well, you mean at the beginning?
No. I thought we were being unfairly tasked, that's all.
Healthy dialogue.
Um,
Healthy dialogue.
I'm not sure it was healthy dialogue, but yes, thank you.
Healthy give and take.
All right.
Democracy, a messy thing. Okay. So we'll move to the vote. Andrew,
To adjourn,
yes.
motion to adjourn. I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Oh, Andrew moved and we had a second. I thought we did already.
Already
Okay,
moved.
Bill
Second.
seconded.
We already
Okay.
moved.
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
Moved.
It's late at night.
Well, I just don't want Bill to feel bad. I don't think that was.
All
I don't think that was out of.
Bill, I feel your pain.
Yes.
right. Thank you.
All right. So, Mr. Dennington,
Aye.
motion to adjourn in your vote, please, sir.
Aye.
Okay, Landry,
Yes.
aye. Mr. Aye.
Aye.
James
Aye.
Grant.
I think we had a very productive meeting tonight, and I
I
vote
think we
aye.
did.
Yep.
I'd say
Thank you, Bill.
congratulations to all of us. I am very happy with the way things have gone. So thank you to everyone. And
Enjoy the warm weather this weekend, folks.
yeah, and
Okay.
James, please feel better immediately.
Yes.
I'll try. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, thanks
Bye.
everyone. Bye. Have a good night.